Hello, my dear students. The images used in the slide deck are for educational purposes only. We respect the intellectual property rights of the original creators and owners of these images. If you are the owner of any of the images used in this deck and have any concern or issues, please contact us at sathi@iitk.ac.in and we shall remove the images. So, my dear students, a very welcome to all of you. I suppose you have remembered that we've been discussing about the different questions that is related to syllogism, and we have been able to understand that what are the important topics and tips that one has to take into consideration whenever they are solving any question which is related to syllogism. In this last lecture series, I am going to give you a very important, a very simple trick to solve the syllogism. Taki, from now onwards, from this point onwards, whenever you are going to solve syllogism, there shouldn't be any confusion, there shouldn't be any problem. There are certain things that obviously one has to take into consideration whenever they are drawing the Venn diagram, and then only they will be able to figure out that whether the statements that has been provided in the question in right now in front of you is the question number 45. Let's take that into consideration. So this particular question has been providing us with three statements. Now all we need to do is we need to draw a Venn diagram. And after drawing the Venn diagram, we will figure out whether these statements are true or not. Okay. So for this, one has to take into consideration the Venn diagram representing the statement that has been provided. And whenever the word not has been indulged, we have to ensure that we are taking that thing also into consideration, because often what have been observed is that students try to miss the word not and they read it as some breads are cakes or some muffins are breads, and that the answer that they are expecting may or may not be correct. So let's try to figure out what exactly the Venn diagram for this particular question would look like. Again, I would request you that you by yourself draw the Venn diagram of these statements, and then we will analyze whether we have drawn the correct diagram of this particular statements or not. So the first statement says, no cakes are muffins. So muffin has been represented here and cakes has been represented here. This is the correct representation. I will draw again a Venn diagram for you so that it becomes a little bit clearer. This is cakes and this is muffins. Now the second statement says some muffins are pastries. So some muffins and pastries should be represented in this manner, that there should be some intersection between muffins and pastries. And the third statement says all pastries are breads. So whenever you are drawing the Venn diagram, you have to ensure that all the pastries should be contained within the circle which is representing breads. So this is the Venn diagram which should look like this. Now the first statement that should be following from the first conclusion that we should follow is some breads are not cakes. Can we come to this conclusion from this particular statement? Some breads are not cakes. Obviously, there is an intersection between muffins and breads, which we can clearly see. And there is cakes, which has no relation with muffins because it has been the very first statements. So if we are saying that there are some breads which are not cakes, so the very first statement is absolutely correct. Some muffins are not breads. Some muffins are not bread. Some muffins are not bread. What we can see from this particular statement is that this particular muffins which has been provided and the breads that has been drawn, there does not have any direct relation that has been clearly mentioned. Although we can see that there is some overlap, but what we can clearly say is that there are some muffins which are bread, but on the contrary of it, we cannot say that some breads are not muffins. So therefore, some muffins are not breads. So therefore, the statements what we can convey from this particular is that this particular statement is wrong. Only this particular statement follows. The correct answer for this question would be answer A. Why is it so, my dear students, that we have not considered that the conclusion, this is right, some muffins are bread, and this particular statement, if this would have been like this, some muffins are bread, we would have considered it to be right. But since we have studied the rule that if some x's are y, some x's are y, it will not mean that some y are not x's. Therefore, this particular conclusion we cannot take into consideration. So conclusion number 2, the answer for this particular question will only be answer A. So the correct answer for this particular question will be only conclusion 1 follows, my dear students. Now, let's move on and let's try to figure out the next question that is right now in front of you. Question number 46. It states that all birds are animals, no animal is human, and some humans are teachers. You have to draw the Venn diagram for this particular question, my dear students. Your 10 seconds to draw the Venn diagram starts now. Kindly draw the Venn diagram according to the statement that has been provided. And then we will try to figure out that whether the Venn diagram that you people have drawn and the Venn diagram that has been given as a display is correct or not. I suppose you have already drawn the Venn diagram, so I'm moving forward. The answer, the solution for the Venn diagram for statement 1, which says that all birds are animals. Is this the correct Venn diagram? All birds are animals. There is certain areas of the birds which is outside, my dear students. So it is not the correct Venn diagram. It should have been like birds, and then an overlap whole circle should be entirely contained within the circle animals. Then no animal is human. Then there is a circle which is going to represent human, where which there is no relation between animals and humans. And then there is some humans are teachers. So this is the correct representation of the Venn diagram, which is representing animals, birds, humans, and teachers. And now the Venn diagram, the conclusion which follows from this Venn diagram suggests that some birds are not humans. Some birds, obviously, all the birds are contained within the animals, and there is no relation between animals and humans. So therefore, first statement obviously follows. No animal is a teacher. No animal is a teacher. Since we can clearly see that there is no linkage between animal and teacher, so that second statement is also being correct. No animal is a teacher. Therefore, what we can conclude is that both the statements, answer conclusion 1 and conclusion 2, follows from the statement that has been provided. So the answer for this particular question will be both conclusion 1 and conclusion 2 follows. I suppose you have understood the question and the answer also for this particular question, my dear students. You have to understand that what are the subjects and what are the predicates, and accordingly we'll have to draw the Venn diagram. And then observing the Venn diagram, you can clearly showcases that the first conclusion which says that some birds are not humans. Some birds, obviously all birds are animals, and no animal is human. Therefore, some birds obviously will not be human. Then the second statement says that some animals are not teachers. No animal is a teacher. No animal is a teacher, which is very much clearly shown through this particular Venn diagram. Therefore, the answer for this question would be answer C. Question number 47, right now in front of you, statement has been provided. I would request you all to kindly draw the Venn diagram for the statement that is right now in front of you. Some balls are bats. No bat is sticks. All sticks are poles. Let's try to draw the Venn diagram for the statement. The Venn diagram for the statement says some bats are. Okay, so there has been some mistake in this particular Venn diagram, my dear students. Yes. And you must have also drawn some balls are bats. So balls, some balls. This is balls. Please don't consider this particular Venn diagram, my dear student. Balls are bats. Some balls are bats. So this is balls, and let's take it as bat. Some balls are bats. No bat is stick. No bat is a stick. So there should be a clear line of difference between bat and stick. And all stick are poles. All stick are poles. And when we say no bat is stick, so there is no bat and stick, and all sticks are poles. All sticks are poles. Now, based on the Venn diagram, this is the correct representation of the Venn diagram that we have been provided. All sticks are balls. All sticks are poles. No bat is stick, and then some balls are bat. Now, let's try to figure out the conclusion. Some poles are not bat. Some poles are not bat. Some poles are not bat. No bat is a stick. So there is a relation between bat and stick. And then this statement says that some poles are not bats. Some poles are not bat, my dear students, as you can clearly see that there is no relation between bat and stick. There is no relation between bat and stick. But is there any relation between bat and pole? Is there any relation between bat and pole? No, there is no relation that we can see between the bat and pole. And therefore, the first statement will say that some poles are not bat. We cannot come to this particular conclusion. Therefore, we cannot take this thing into consideration. The second statement says some balls are not sticks. Some balls are not sticks. Those balls which are bats, obviously, those areas are not being covered with the stick because it has clearly mentioned that no bat is a stick. Therefore, some bat which are also balls, because if we have mentioned that some balls are bats, so there is some intersection between bats and balls. Now, some balls are not stick. This is the conclusion that we can take into consideration. So some balls are not stick. This is the correct answer. Answer B for the question number 47. I suppose you have understood what exactly is the reason, my dear students. Now the questions are getting a little bit complicated. So we have to apply our mind. We have to see the relation. We have to see the inference. And based on this particular statement only, we will try to derive the conclusion. Now, question number 48. Question number 48 says that all apples are fruits. Some fruits are berries and no berries is vegetable. You have 10 seconds, my dear students, to draw the Venn diagram which suggests that the relation between the statement 1, 2, and 3. The first statement says all apples are fruits. Second statement says some fruits are berries and no berry is a vegetable. Very easy for you. I suppose you will be able to draw this Venn diagram very easily, my dear students. The Venn diagram for statement says all apples are fruits. All apples are fruits should have been represented in this manner. This is apple and this is fruits. So this is the correct representation. Some fruits are berries. So there should be an intersection between fruits and berries. There shouldn't be any intersection between apples, berries and fruits, but just an interaction between fruits and berries, because that is what has been provided according to statement number 2. And no berry is a vegetable. There should be a clear gap between vegetables and berries. There should be a clear gap between vegetables and berries. Now, based on the Venn diagram, let's try to figure out some vegetables are not berries. Some vegetables are not berries. Some vegetables, the question says, some vegetables are not fruits. I'm so sorry. Some vegetables are not fruits. Some vegetables are not fruits. Some vegetables are not fruits. Those area which has been covered by this particular areas of berries, which are also fruits. Whether we can come to this conclusion that some vegetables are not fruits? Yes, we can come to this conclusion, my dear students, because there is an intersection between fruit and berries. And obviously there is no fruits. There is no berry, which is vegetable. So we can obviously say that there are some vegetables which are not fruits. This is the correct conclusion that we can derive. And then there are some apples are not vegetables. Some apples are not vegetables. Some apples are not vegetables. Obviously, we can clearly see that there is no relation between apples and vegetables. So therefore, the second statement is also correct. Second statement is also correct. The answer for this question will be answer C, not answer B. My dear student, there is a correction that needs to be made here. The correct answer for this particular question will be answer C. Okay, I suppose you have understood the reason for the same. And with this, we are going to move to our second last question of the lecture series, and that is question number 49. The question number 49 right now is in front of you, my dear students. I would like you to take this particular statement into consideration. Statement number 1, which says that some trees are flowers, all flowers are bushes, and no bush is a leaf. Now, based on this particular statement that has been provided in front of you, my dear students, you have to draw the Venn diagram. And the Venn diagram for this particular statement would be like this. Some trees are flowers. Some trees are flowers, meaning which there should be an intersection between the circles which are going to represent trees and flowers. And all flowers are bushes. All flowers are bushes should be represented in this manner. All flowers are bushes. And then no bush is a leaf. Now, no bush is a leaf. There should be a gap between bushes and leaf. And this should be the correct representation of the Venn diagram of all the three statements that has been provided, my dear students. Why is it important to draw the Venn diagram in a precise manner? And we should have not overlapped the bushes circle with the trees, because this is the bare minimum. There is a rule which is known as bare minimum rule, which suggests कि जब भी आप सर्कल ड्रॉ कर रहे हैं तो सिर्फ आप उतने ही चीज पर ड्रॉ करेंगे जो आपको प्रोवाइड करी गई है. यहाँ पे बोला गया सम ट्रीज आर फ्लावर्स, सम ट्रीज आर फ्लावर्स. तो यहाँ पर आप देख सकते हैं कि कुछ एरिया ऐसा है बुशेस का जो कि ट्रीज को भी ओवरलैप कर रहा है. वो चीज नहीं सही मानी जाती है वेन डायग्राम के रिप्रेजेंटेशन में. There shouldn't be any point where which the tree should be crossing with the bushes, because it has not been mentioned. Although flowers is contained within the bushes, so that is why we have drawn the bare minimum circle, which can represent the Venn diagram. And now, based on this particular Venn diagram, let's try to figure out some trees are not leaves. Some trees are not leaves. Some trees which is intersecting between the bushes, and since bushes has no relation with leaves, so some trees are not leaves is the correct answer. Some flowers are not leaves. All the flowers are contained within the bushes, and there is no relation between bushes and leaves. So therefore, the second statement also is correct. The correct answer for this question will be answer C. आंसर सी क्यों? क्योंकि आंसर सी के अंदर लिखा हुआ है कंक्लूजन 1 और कंक्लूजन 2 बोथ फॉलोज. एंड कंक्लूजन 1 भी हमने देखा कि इन वेन डायग्राम की रिप्रेजेंटेशन से वी आर 100% श्योर दैट दिस इज द conclusion that can be inferred to the statement that has been provided, and the conclusion is also following from second conclusion also, and conclusion number 1. So the option for this particular question will be option number C, that is both conclusion 1 and conclusion 2 follows. I hope, my dear students, आपको ये क्वेश्चन भी समझ में आया होगा, और आपको ये भी समझ में आया होगा कि why is it so हम वेन डायग्राम के ऊपर कभी भी ओवरलैप नहीं लाते किसी और सर्किल पे. जब भी हमारे पास कभी ऐसे ऑप्शंस आते हैं कि सम फ्लावर्स, सम ट्रीज आर फ्लावर्स एंड ऑल फ्लावर्स आर बुशेस, तो हम यहाँ पे ट्रीज के सर्किल के ऊपर बुशेस को ओवरलैप नहीं कर सकते, बिकॉज दैट हैज नॉट बीन प्रोवाइडेड एज अ स्टेटमेंट. सो जब भी हम लोग सर्किल ड्रॉ करते हैं तो हम लोग ये इंश्योर करते हैं कि सिर्फ वो एरिया जो कि बेयर मिनिमम ड्रॉ हो रहा है ट्रीज और फ्लावर्स में या एक्स और वाई के बीच में, सिर्फ उतने ही एरिया को हम कवर करके सर्किल को इनकम्पास करें, ताकि ट्रीज या एक्स को ओवरलैप ना करे बुशेस या अदर सर्किल्स. ठीक है, आपको समझ में आई होगी मेरी बात. तो इसी बात पे हम लोग अब चलते हैं आज के और इस लेक्चर सीरीज के लास्ट क्वेश्चन पे. और इस लास्ट क्वेश्चन का जो स्टेटमेंट है वो आपके सामने है. माय डियर स्टूडेंट, वी हैव प्रैक्टिस्ड अ टोटल ऑफ 50 क्वेश्चंस, where which we have tried to understand that what exactly are the tips that needs to be kept into mind whenever we are solving questions. Venn diagram almost सबसे अच्छा तरीका और सबसे easy तरीका होता है क्वेश्चन को सॉल्व करने का. No matter what the answer is saying, no matter whether you are 100% sure or not about the answer that has been given in front of you, if you are able to draw the correct Venn diagram, so you can by yourself infer that whether the answer that has been provided is correct or not. तो कभी भी बच्चे आप लोगों को घबराना नहीं, आप लोगों को परेशान नहीं होना है कि सर जो सॉल्यूशन दिखा हुआ है, जो सॉल्यूशन हमारे सामने दिखा हुआ है, उस सॉल्यूशन में आंसर कुछ और आ रहा है, और जो हम वेन डायग्राम के रिप्रेजेंटेशन के थ्रू कर रहे हैं उसका वेन डायग्राम का जो आंसर है वो कुछ और आ रहा है. There will be chance, because obviously we are taking assistance of computers, and obviously kabhi there are typo errors also. जिस वजह से जो आंसर हमारे को दिख रहा होता है वो एक्चुअली में वो आंसर नहीं होता। तो इसीलिए जरूरी है कि विद द करेक्ट एक्सप्लेनेशन, if somebody is providing you the answer with the diagram, if they're providing you the answer, then you can um, assume that answer is right. But if there is only options given like option A, B, C, and D, then you will have to just cross verify it through the Venn diagram representation, and then only you can suggest कि ये आंसर सही है या नहीं है, my dear students. So now, last question for this lecture series is right now in front of you, my dear students. Please try to draw the Venn diagram which suggests that no birds is fish, some fish are animals, and all animals are mammals. Now let's see that how the Venn diagram for the last question should look like. It is saying no birds are fish. No birds are fish. Correct explanation, correct representation. There is no relation between birds and fish. This is birds and a small gap between birds and fish. So this is how birds and fish should look like. The first statement, some fish are animals, some fish are animals. So there are some fishes which are animals, and then all animals are mammals. So there should be a circle that is being drawn in such a manner that it should not overlap with the circle, only with the circle which has been which has already been overlapped between fish and animal should be there, but mammal circle should not overlap the fish circle for the correct representation of the Venn diagram. So now let's verify. Let's verify whether this particular Venn diagram is correct or not. No bird is fish. Yes, there is a gap between the circle which is representing birds and fish. First statement seems to be correct. Some fish are animals. Some fish are animals. Yes, there is a circle which is showcasing some fishes are animals. And then all animals are mammals. All animals are mammals. This is also being correctly shown through the Venn diagram. So we can clearly suppose that this particular Venn diagram is correct. Now let's try to figure out the statement. Some mammals are not birds. Some mammals, obviously some mammals, the fish is no birds are fish. This is very much clear. Then there is a circle which is encompassing between animals and mammals, and you can see there is a relation between fish and animals. So if some animals which are fishes or some mammals which are fishes, then those those animals and fishes will not be birds, because no bird is a fish, and there is that relation which is helping us to figure out that some mammals are not birds. And then the last statement, that some fish are not birds, some fish are not birds, no fish is a bird. Therefore, the statement 2, which is saying that some fish are not birds, obviously it has been mentioned that no birds are fish, so some fish are not birds. Almost the same statement has been copied here, but in a different method whatsoever. That is why both the statements, both the conclusion that has been made through the inferences that has been taken from these three statements seems to be correct. So the answer for question number 50 will be answer C. That is both option 1 and option 2 follows. My dear students, I suppose you have understood that why is it so that we have taken this particular Venn diagram to be correct and not the Venn diagram which is being represented here. Because if we see, the first statement seems to be correct. The circle, there is no relation between them. But when we figure out some fishes are animals, that statement also seems to be correct, because the Venn diagram, which is encompassing fishes and animals, suggests that there is some fishes which are animals. So even the second diagram seems to be correct. But when we go to the third diagram, which is talking about all animals are mammals, so we can see that animals, there is a certain area of animals. This is the circle which is encompassing animals. So this is the circle which is encompassing animals. But what we can see is that this circle has overlapped from the circle which is representing mammals. This has overlapped from the circle which is representing mammals, which clearly indicates that this is not the correct representation of the third statement. the correct representation of the third statement would somehow look like this. And that is why we have again drawn the Venn diagram for your people's better understanding. And after drawing the Venn diagram, we referred to the conclusions. That what are the conclusions that are following? First statement says some mammals are not birds. Some mammals, there are some mammals which has been intersected through fish, animals, and mammals. This is that area. Some mammals are not birds. Those mammals which are intersecting with animals and fishes are not birds. So that statement means to be true. And the second conclusion says that some fishes are not birds. So fishes are obviously not birds. It is the entirely the same statement has been referred as the conclusion. So therefore, both the conclusions, conclusion number 1 and conclusion number 2, are following from the statement that has been provided. Therefore, this is the correct answer of the last question of this lecture series. That is question number 50. So, my dear students, I suppose throughout this whole journey of our question of practicing our questions of syllogism, you must have learned a lot about what are the important tips and tricks that one has to take into consideration, how we have to ensure that some x's are y's will not be equal to some y's are not x's. Okay, this is something that these are the simple rules that the students have to keep in mind whenever they are drawing the Venn diagram and whenever they are inferring through the Venn diagram. That is much more important. Venn diagram, drawing the Venn diagram is one thing, and then inferring from the Venn diagram that what conclusion will follow and will not follow is actually very important. And that is why we have suggested that all the students who are going to prepare for syllogism should practice at least for all the competitive examination. They should practice at least 200 to 300 questions before attempting any question or any competitive examination. Because once you are able to solve these set of 200 to 300 questions, then only you will be able to figure out that yes, where exactly the mistake lies and where I have to improve. The first thing that you have to keep in mind, obviously, the tips and the types and the rules that we have formulated. And based on the tips, tricks, and the types and the rules, you have to use those statements that has been provided in the question paper, and you have to try to draw the Venn diagram. After you have drawn the Venn diagram, when you are 100% sure that the diagram that you have drawn is actually the diagram which has been suggested through the statement that has been provided, then you will infer through that particular Venn diagram that whether the conclusion that has been given in the question is actually following or not. If the conclusions are following, you will mark them. If their conclusions are not following, you will cross them. And then the options that has been given, you will select the option which is giving you the correct answer. And then your answers, the questions will be solved, which is related to syllogism. So my dear students, hope आपको इन सारे questions को समझ के अच्छा लगा होगा. Again, I will request you all to ensure that all the students are practicing the syllogism portions again and again. And not only you are practicing, you are trying to figure out what can be an exception to all the syllogism and how you have to ensure that the syllogism that is going to be in your question paper should be a question which you have already solved, and that is through by practicing again and again these syllogism, my dear students. तो इसके साथ हम आज का ये जो लेक्चर है इसको एंड करते हैं, और अब बस एक और लेक्चर हम आपके साथ लेकर आएंगे which will be related to syllogism, where which we will again be revising each and every topic, all the types that we have studied so far, which is in relation to syllogism. और उसके अलावा हम लोग ट्राई करेंगे कि उन रूल्स को कैसे हम लोग रिलेट कर सकते हैं by taking into consideration any of the questions that we have solved, और उसी एक पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन को हम लोग रेफरेंस पे लेके we will try to remember all the rules that has to be kept in mind while we are solving syllogism. After that, जब हम लोग ये पूरा प्रैक्टिस कर चुके हैं, हम आपसे रिक्वेस्ट करेंगे, ऑल द स्टूडेंट्स आर ऑब्वियसली डायरेक्टेड एंड रिक्वेस्टेड that they should be continuing practicing the syllogism until unless they have not solved at least 2 to 300 questions before entering the competitive examination. Then it won't be a fruitful journey for us, and that is why we request all the students who have been a part of this particular lecture series to continuing practice syllogism questions wheresoever resources that they find. And with this, I would like to end today's lecture. Now, one more thing we would like to inform you here is that in the upcoming lecture, we are going to have a quick pro revision of all the important tips, so that if the students were not able to understand, or through the lecture they were not able to grasp that what exactly are the tips and the tricks, then at least they can have a quick revision of it. And this will be a compiled whole lecture series over syllogism, which whenever the students would wish to prepare for the competitive examination where syllogism is a part, they can take reference of this syllogism lecture series, and that is definitely going to be very much beneficial for all of the students. With this, I would like to thank you all for being patiently available and watching this video till end and trying to solve the questions along with me. With this, I'm ending today's lecture. May you have a very wonderful day. Best of luck for your competitive examination, my dear students. Bye bye and take care.